Did you just take the APUSH exam and are you curious if what you wrote actually counts? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to be going through each question one by one, telling you what I think would be acceptable answers. And if you respond in the comments with specific questions, I'll be sure to get back to you. Let's start with Set 1, SAQ 1. This is on the origins of women's history. So if this question looks familiar to you, this is what we're going to chat about. As an APUSH grader for the last 6 years, one of the biggest errors I see with Part A is that students only address one historian. They'll say something like, this historian believed this and the other historian believed the opposite. That doesn't work. What you need to do is you actually need to address both historians in the prompt. So for this one on the origins of women's rights, we've got two historians, Melder and Lerner. And there's a couple differences that you could have noticed in their passage. The things that stick out to me the most is that Melder is identifying that women collectively formed an identity, that there's this motivation, this effort that was more successful because they were in close proximity to each other. Whereas Lerner emphasizes the exclusion and isolation that middle-class women were feeling. And so there's one opposite that I see from the get-go. The other one that I noticed is that women in Melder's analysis were feeling a lot of autonomy in the reform movements. And that was motivating and inspiring for them to get more, especially in the political realm. Whereas Lerner highlighted the frustration of women, that they were feeling the economic limitations of their status, and that's what motivated them to seek advancement politically. For Part B and C, what you want to make sure that you're doing is not just citing a specific event or development, but that you're actually explaining it. So I'm going to tell you some specific things that I think would have worked for each of these historians, but you would have needed to make sure that you explained them. So for Part B with Melder, the Second Great Awakening would have been great evidence. Also, any of the reform movements, so the work of women in the temperance or the abolition movements. I also think the Seneca Falls Convention does work. It's at the very end of the time period, but I think you could have used that to explain it. I think also it talked about it referenced kind of the ideas of Republican motherhood, so that may have worked depending on how well you explained it. Additionally, I think voting rights requirements, really specifying what women, how women were excluded and what groups of Americans were allowed to be in the voting ranks. And then for learners, I would highlight aspects of industrialization. So opportunities for women in the mills. You could have referenced the Lowell mills. You could have talked about urbanization and the migration of women to these urban areas for jobs. As part of the market revolution, that would have been great, highlighting the economic focus of Lerner. Additionally, the Second Great Awakening would work. And then finally, I think the expansion of universal white male suffrage would have been a great piece of evidence. I did not include everything that would have been included in the possible evidence, but I think those are some really high points that would have been helpful. So there you have my analysis of SAQ 1, Set 1 on the origins of women's rights. Comment below if you have any questions and stay tuned. I'll be going through all the prompts from 2024 APUSH.